Oh, wow.
Saw it twice, so I was like, oh my god.
That was just weird.
I always used to see a light coming up,
Yeah.
like a headlight, but there was nobody there.
Oh, it's just disappeared.
Hello everybody, welcome to Truth Proof. Hope you're all okay today. Hope you've had a good weekend. And throwing it down here, but well, not literally, but you get the gist. So just me tonight, guys. We'll plan on an hour. If it goes over, if it goes to 2 hours, it goes to 2 hours. I don't mean it depends on you, but just fire some questions at me in capital letters, please. And I've got quite a few reports. Most of them are historic, but some of them you'll have never heard before. So they'll be new, won't they? Even if they go back years. So I thought we'd get through some of them. And yeah, and if you've got any reports of your own that you want to share, please send them to me, which is my email address, all lowercase, paulsinclair.ilf@gmail.com. And we'll go from there. And hopefully, you know, there'll be even more to share with you guys. So questions in capital letters. I think Alison's doing moderating tonight, Lee and Gemma. So thanks a lot, guys. And let's see Tom Waters is in, Linny's in, Mrs. Linny, Mia Girl. Oh, thanks for Penguin. Mia Girl. Yeah, very funny. It's a private joke that, Jeremy. When I hurt my back last year, Jeremy decided that as I was walking and sort of whining a bit in pain, that I looked like Penguin as I was walking. So it's kind of stuck. So, but I don't mind. We can have a laugh, can't we? So Dave Barker's in. Chills, Tony Dixon, good to see you other day, Tony. Rob Thrillon, I think that's how you pronounce it. Jane Louise is in. Let's have a look. Sober Carper, Phil Morgan, good to see you, Phil. Phil's bravest man I know. You know, he walks about all over the place when it comes to area, just literally on his own. And it's all ours. So I don't know whether it's brave or foolhardy, Phil, but you've got my respect there. Zero Dawn, Ginge, Susan Wiseman. Let's have a look. Tony Worrell. I see Gemma's there. Alison's there. Summit and Chips. I'm not even going to try and say it. Zero Dawn. Let's have a look. So where are we going with this? I'm going to put the questions up as they come, but I do have some. I've got a little bit of footage from Terry Brown, who visited us earlier in year. And I think it was 2024 and September 2024, he'd filmed something. It's not the smoking gun of ufology, people, or anything like that. But Terry told me that he'd value, not my opinion, you guys, your opinion. So I'm just going to read this. So this was September 2024. So I just printed it off. He only sent it me today. And I've looked at footage. You're not going to see Starship Enterprise, but here's his description. Clear sunny day around 4:30 p.m. I saw a light in the distance approaching from the north. Thinking it could be an aircraft, I ignored it at first and opened my garden gate. I was throwing the ball for the dogs. This thing just sat there, slowly moving, I thought. And then I thought, what is it? And then all of a sudden it split into two balls of light. One shot up and split. One shot up and split. Second one was gone, literally gone in seconds, and the other one was doing some sort of sky dance. So I grabbed my phone and started filming it. I said sky dance. I know it's weird, but I'm going to show you this footage. We'll get through that first. And as I say, you're not going to see the smoking gun of ufology here. But Terry's a great supporter of Truth Proof and a good friend. And he's asked me to just throw it out there. So there's 3 sections. So there's one in a distance. It's 3 minutes. We might just skip and just do a minute of it. And then there's a couple of shorter clips where he's zoomed in. So let's just put that up, people. Let's have a go.
This thing is a sat in the sky. It's not an aeroplane. It's just moved forward and moved backwards. That little flashing dot there it was just sat in the sky over Frimley. That was an insect. It's gone now. There it is again. It keeps on disappearing. Now, I've just been watching this and I've had to run upstairs to get my camera phone. Hey, look at that. And gone. Flash, gone. Nothing there. It's just fuck it. Sorry, it's just flying around. It's that one dot. It's not an aeroplane, guys. Look, it was there 1 minute and it's moved. I was coming in the garden to let the dogs out and get some washing in, and I saw this thing up there, sat over one spot, and then it moved forward, and now it's moved back again to its original position, and it keeps disappearing. Reappearing, it's sort of morphing. It's just gone there, let's see, and it's back again, so it's forward and back. I have got my Fujifilm, but I cannot get it. It's out of focus when I zoom in on it. This is the best I can do in the video. It's weird. A minute ago it just separated into two bits. It's two of them. And there's one again. It's almost like one came out of it.
Okay, there's a little bit more of that, but I think you get the gist. It's just more of the same. We've got this light that keeps appearing and then disappearing. Terry's a pretty genuine bloke. It's not telling us much, is it? But we'll do the next bit of footage. These are a lot shorter and a little bit closer, so you get a little bit better view of what he's filmed.
It keeps on disappearing. Now, I've just been watching this and I've had to run upstairs to get my camera phone. Hey, look at that. It keeps on disappearing. Now, I've just been watching this and I've had to run upstairs to get my camera phone. Hey, look at that.
Yeah, look at that. So what do you think? No doubt there might be a perfectly rational explanation for this. There usually is for most of things that we see as well, but interesting. Last bit of film, few seconds of this one, bit closer. Okay, guys. And I don't know what to make of it. Obviously, it's a long way away, so you know it's difficult to ascertain what we're actually looking at, isn't it? But he's captured something, and good on Terry for putting it out there and sharing it with us. So, few sightings. I've been to Hummonby Gap this last week, and interviewed a lady who had an incredible sighting in 2017. I spoke to her several times over years. Then I lost contact, and luckily she contacted me again the other week and went through. She allowed me to film her talking about what she'd seen, which were absolutely brilliant. But I'm going to tell you guys about it because today I received another sighting from Reeton Gap, which is crazy, isn't it? Because you guys... Obviously, the people in Eastern North Yorkshire who are watching Truth Proof now will be familiar with these locations. But if you're not, then you're going to have to get on Google Earth and look at these locations, because a lot of places that we go, myself, you'll see Cliff Top Pete in there. That's Pete who comes up with us. There's Linny, there's Jeremy, and Chris, an whole group of people. Bob, when he's well enough. We spend a bit of time at Bempton. We've spent time at Speeton. So they're all just Bempton. We'll call Bempton the hub. And then if you go down the coast, we're only going a few miles. So you've got the next one, Speeton. Then we've got Reeton. Then we've got Hummonby Gap. So literally we can do them all in 4 miles. And these little resorts. But I got another report from Reeton Gap today, which is literally a stone's throw away from the 2017 sighting that this lady, Jean, kindly told me about this week. So it's interesting. We'll sort of talk about them in a moment. I'll just throw this up before I talk about what I've called the Silver Man, because Chris Meek talked about the Silver Man in Scotland, and we've not got a same report, but we've got a similar report, but it's from September 2024. So let's just have a look. So that name I can't pronounce, Chips. Has there been any drone sightings near your coast? Well, there may have been, and some of the things that potentially that we've been filming could be drones, but not that I know of. And if you've got any sort of knowledge of that, just let us know. We'd love to hear about it, and I'm sure that we could report on it. So not that I know of. Let's just check that there's no more questions here before, because I'd get a little bit bogged down with these questions, but I can't see many at all, and I do want questions tonight, people. Let me just scroll up. You're just going to have to put up with me for a moment. Right, so we'll do that one in a minute. So, right, let's weave a thought. We're going to weave a thought now, and we're going to go about 15 to 20 miles onto the Wolds, this barren land. It's not all barren, but it's just rough grazing for sheep, and there's and bit of arable land. So, weave a thought's a little village on Wolds, and I'll read you this one and see what you think. I've only ever spoke about it once, and good observations, this guy. So he's living in a little village of Weave the Thought, and he said last night, but obviously Phil, he contacted me the night after the day after he'd seen this, but we're actually now sat in, if we go back to 2024 in September. So he says, last night about 9 o'clock-ish, I saw out of the bathroom window a meteor, not a huge one, but he decided he wanted to go and view the skies. It kind of inspired him. After seeing it, I figured I'd get out with the dog after the wife went to bed. So after just go out, and he's by the way, he's got a paddock at the back of his home. I don't know if they've got one horse or a couple of horses, but there's definitely at least one horse in paddock. So he's got a fair bit of land that goes up on a bit of a slope at the back of his home. I've been to area. I know exactly where this is. I wanted to go out into the fields to see what was up there. I went with more intention to look at the stars than anything else. When I went out, it was getting towards midnight. I didn't go far, just in my paddock, the field behind the house. I had to sort something with the horse. Well, one horse, we've already established that. Then he's not got an S on end. And then I went into the empty field with the dog and turned my torch off, ready to view the night sky. Within a minute, I saw a silver to grey figure moving west to east on the field behind mine. A figure, bipedal. No sounds with it. It looked fairly large, width-wise, 5 foot tall, 3 foot wide. Christ. It would have looked square, really, wouldn't it, almost, It was like it was emitting its own light. Although it was dark and the moon was over to the east. It's interesting, isn't it? Neither the dog or the horse reacted. That's interesting. So the dog's got no perception of this. So visually, he's fixed eyes on this, and there's no reaction from the wildlife or from the animals. After a minute, I recreated everything I'd done, including let's have a look. Torch being on, then off, to check I'd not mistaken anything, and to see and check I couldn't replicate it. Something mundane. I don't know. He'd clipped something in top at field. I don't know, a water barrel or a food container, but I don't think he had. From where I was the field looked empty. I could see the neighbour's sheep, and they were in a different field. But I figured I'd go check that there wasn't one of the sheep that had become isolated from the flock. I got about a third of this is where it gets interesting for me. I know people like UFO sightings and maybe cryptid sightings where you get a full visual on these things. I mean, we'd all love that, won't we? But I like all these quirky anomalies that pack around the sightings and the things that we don't overlook. They always get placed in report, but they don't seem as prevalent in importance, but they are. They're all part of the process of what's happening. I got about a third of the way up the field. It's my field. I own it, and I've walked around it at night in the dark countless times. But for some reason, I started to feel anxious and afraid. That's what gets me. That's what I find fascinating. What's creating that? And this man's worked all over the place. I'll tell you this now. We are going into a description of his job during the night in some pretty hair-raising conditions. I have never had that feeling in this field or any field before. I managed to get 2/3 up, and my legs were going to jelly, and it was just getting worse. This kind of reminds me of Mark. Although Mark didn't say his legs went to jelly, but he had that experience then when that fear dropped on him at Bempton, you know, and what's happening? What kind of processes are at work that can do this to a person? You know, if you'd have been suspicious and you'd have thought, oh, there's some intruders or there's somebody poaching, you don't start walking up and your legs don't turn to jelly, do they? At least I don't think mine would. You know, I might be a little bit wise and not go charging in, but there's something else at work here. And it was getting worse. I stopped for a minute and used my torch. The field where I had seen the figure, it was definitely empty. There was nothing else to be seen. The dog wasn't bothered either. He was running to the top of the field and back. I turned my back and the fear and anxiety eased. Something is telling him or emitting something, don't come any closer, but for why? Is that for his own safety? What are the reasons? I guess we don't know. So I walked away to the bottom of the field and suddenly everything felt normal. That's good, isn't it? I then gave it a few minutes and I thought, I'm going to try it again. And it was just the same. I stopped again after a few minutes. The whole sensation, and after a few minutes of turning away, the whole sensation lifted and it cleared and it was totally normal. I walked around a bit more and felt nothing other than the feeling that it was all over. Over? What were over? Obviously, he'd seen this figure, but what were over? What were impressing that fear upon him? Because I think whatever it is that is the unexplained phenomena. Oh, Al Durham, I saw in here as well. Good to see you, Al. Hope everything's okay. I think whatever it is that's impressing this fear, obviously it's got intent and there's an intelligence behind it. But what are the reasons? Is it because we would become, I don't know, ill? Or potentially we would be in a dangerous situation by whatever it is it's emitting? Is it actually doing it for our own good? I guess that's what I'm saying. I wonder though if whatever it was played on some of the more recent stuff I've heard and read. Because what I didn't say at the beginning of this, because this man had spoken to me before and I'd introduced him to someone, as another person in Weaverthorpe who'd had a sighting. And he thinks, because he said he ended up talking to this person for about 3 hours. He'd had a sighting years before, and that's why he contacted me. We'll not do that sighting today. And I've got another Weaverthorpe sighting, so I put these two people together because they didn't live that far apart, but neither of them knew. Yet, so if that makes sense. So they spoke for about 3 hours, but after they'd spoken, he thought that he'd made its eyelids flicker, the phenomena. It was aware. And that occurs a lot of times, you know, within this genre, within this field of the unexplained. It's almost as though once you're on its radar, people talk about the hitchhiker effect, and some people would imagine that it's something that's attached itself to you, or it's almost sat in car with you as you drive home. I don't think it is. Remember, I'm not the authority. It's only my thoughts and my views. I think all of this is just a thought process away. Just like if you're spiritual, you want to connect with God. Think about it. Allegedly, you'll connect with God. Right. So, and let's have a little bit more. I think we're just about done with this. I wonder if it used that against. I wonder though if whatever it was had played on some of the more recent stuff that I'd heard about and read about. So yeah, and it used it against me, or even my mind just played some tricks on me. All I can say is it was very strange. I felt more anxious and fearful in this situation than I have done in a lot of work-related stuff. So, as I said, we'll not go into details in what this man does for a job, but it's interesting. Let's put it that way. So let's just have a quick look here. There's a question here from Chris O'Neill. I hope it's a good question, not a trick question. Hi, Paul. When do you think the last transmission will be back? Missing you and Chris Turner. Thank you. Spoke to Chris yesterday. Chris has been absolutely pulled out. He's been really, really busy. And I did say to Chris, and I didn't get a definite answer, but I can't see why not. I did say, shall we do a last transmission around Christmas or a couple of them? We'll see. I can't speak for Chris, so we shall see. I might give him a call after this. Well, I don't know. So, yeah, last transmission, that's not really a question, but you're asking a question. Yeah, I used to enjoy doing them, but obviously time, everything's time. And everybody's got loads on in their lives, haven't they? And point in question is Chris has, So let's just run down here let's have a look. Let's have a look at this. The entity you showed on the cliffs, right? So anybody that's not familiar with this, go onto the Truth Proof YouTube channel and you'll see a short film that I put up, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, probably not even that, of a thermal heat signature of a shape. It looks like a person, looks like somebody, I think, with a backpack. But the interesting thing is when Jeremy put his torch onto the figure, there's nothing there. And his torch went well past the range of where this heat signature was. So let's have a look. When the entity showed on the cliff top, do you think it had flashing around its head and shoulder? There is a bit of flexing of light and things. What I might do, Martin, I don't want to do another short, but I might do it for a live stream because Jeremy's said that he'll come on and talk about this. Linny asked him other day, Linny's in chat. So Jeremy said that he'll come on and talk about this. And I might slow it right down. Then you can see it flexing, and there are times, let's assume that it's some kind of suit that's stopping any heat signature showing through, any strong heat signature. There are times when you seem to see heat, you're spot on. And I could have slowed it down, I suppose, and showed that, but it was just a matter of getting that film out. So, yeah, interesting. I don't know what people thought of that, whether they thought that... A lot of people thought it were a horse. But if you've been up onto Bempton Cliffs, you'll know that there's no livestock on top of them cliffs because obviously they're behind barbed wire if it is. And then the field where all the sheep used to be, there's now crops on it. The sheep have gone. And if you'd have gone a little bit further down from where Jeremy filmed that with the thermal, there's no fence, which would absolutely be... I don't mean a rogue horse could escape and get onto cliff tops. We realise that. But I don't think it were a horse. I'll be honest with you. Absolutely not. Not if he's got his torch on it. And that's the crucial bit that people have maybe missed. He put his torch on it. There was nothing there. He couldn't see anything. That's the bit that I found fascinating, So Stephen Collins. Let's have a look. I don't know if I know this one. Hi, Paul. Did that... I thought it said prison. That's why I said, looking at it, person contact you about the sighting he had going down Staxton Hill. No, he didn't, Stephen. And I'd like to hear about that, mate. I don't know if you know the person and want to give him a little nudge, and that would be good. And it's interesting, isn't it, that Staxton, next to Flixton, next to all these little villages, Ganton, and we've got all these tiny villages that have they held on to the past and held on to these old stories? Because it seems when things get populated and places get overbuilt, do these stories dissipate? Do they die? I don't know, because there's still lots of stories and lots of things coming out of the area of Flixton and Falkton as well. I couldn't remember the name for a minute. I think you all saw me struggling to find it then. So there you go. And what's Alison saying? Thank you for joining us tonight. Much appreciated. Thanks, Alison. Yeah, thanks everybody. It really is appreciated. And I put another short on a few days ago, just on about sensors and the things that interact with us before what people want. These would all be the side dishes if we were dealing with a menu, wouldn't they? But they're equally important. And we talked about touch, or I did, visuals and the perception that things are happening or going to happen before they actually happen. And I touched on the guy who I know called Rob, who'd seen in 1966 as a young boy, he'd seen this UFO where Bridlington Hospital now is, the World Small Woodland. And I thought, well, I'll just talk about this one. I'll touch on this one today. And I spoke about it before, but I think it's great. He was 14 at the time. So he's at the top of what's called Bessingby Hill, just on way out of Bridlington. You've got Bridlington Hospital there now, and a fire station a little bit lower down the road, but nothing else. And he's there with his brother, and they're just getting a bit of firewood. I think that's what they're doing. And they're at Bessinby West Hill, close to where the Bridlington Hospital now is. They were cutting down trees for someone who would later collect them for logs. It was early evening, and suddenly Rob and his brother saw a huge flash in the sky. 1966, over 50 years ago. And this is why I'm touching on this one, because I've just mentioned the sensors. Because despite how incredible what he saw was, there's a certain element to this that's just, he can't get out of his mind. When they looked, they saw this thing hanging there just above the trees. He says, yeah, he immediately grabbed hold of his brother and pulled him down into the bushes, and they watched this UFO in amazement. I asked him how long for, and he said for about 15 minutes, it's just hanging there in the sky. They couldn't understand how it was just able to hang in the sky in complete silence. You know, and unless this fella's lying, then we've got a true unknown here. And if it's our tech, because some people always want us to steer us down that road, and we realize that a lot of things that people see, us included, is some kind of military tech that we've just not identified. So to us, it might be a UFO. But the thing is, 1966, a huge wedge-shaped object, like a piece of cheesecake on its side, hanging in the sky. I don't think we'd made out like that, do you? I don't think we'd developed anything that could do that. But then it does a few things that are interesting. Anyway, we both watched it in amazement. We could not understand how it was hanging in the sky in complete silence. It had no windows and it looked seamless. Rob remarked how it reminded him of something from the TV series The Thunderbirds. Maybe a lot of people don't remember Thunderbirds. It hung in the sky for a while, like a wedge of cheesecake on its side. I've just said that, haven't I? It sounds like he's repeating himself, but it's me repeating myself. He said it was silver blue in colour and appeared to have a blue flame. Like you picture the flame off a gas fire? All the way around the edges, this blue flame. And it was shimmering, almost like a shimmering heat flame around the edges. Then the thing that's stuck in Rob's mind all his life, despite the visual of what he saw, if that's not enough, without warning, it made a sound. It made a loud clunking noise. Sounds like some off clangers, doesn't it? Rob said it was like something huge and mechanical falling into gear. Then it suddenly moved in what looked like one fast, awkward movement and was instantly in another part of the sky. Seconds of later, it was gone. They never told anybody about what they'd about what they'd seen, because they were up to no good. They were cutting trees down where they shouldn't have been cutting trees down. And in Rob's words, if he'd have come home with his brother, his dad, well, he says, my life wouldn't have been worth living. But the biggest puzzle of all was the sound. The sound it made, and over 50 years later, Rob says, I can still hear it. And I've tried and tried to replicate this sound. I've tried to, when I've heard things, I've been in foundries or anywhere, or watched something on TV and I've heard a sound, I'm there. Is it close to that? Is that what I heard? And he's never heard anything like it. Isn't that fascinating? Don't you think that, not even how spectacular the UFO was, the fact that this sound has stayed with him all of his life, and he can't shake it off. I think it's amazing. I see Zen Escape, is it? Escape. Gemma's there. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Mark Buck, John Paul Body, Sam Watson. Good to see you, Sam. Thanks for messages as well, mate. Pointer, Matthew Cook, Maya, MLD, rhubarb and custard. Yeah. I don't like rhubarb. Does anybody like rhubarb? What's Pointer rhubarb? I can't understand anybody eating it myself. But we don't talk about rhubarb. Let's have a look. Paul, do you ever feel that you're meant to be where you are now, in the Bempton area, to bring forward the experiences that occur in these? It's difficult, isn't it, Steve? I think, wherever you go, let's assume I've got this interest and I moved, like move 50 miles, move 100 miles. Whatever's happening here is not going to stop. It's been happening here long before I've started highlighting it, long before we went onto those cliff tops. But the location itself, because we know it gets a lot of footfall in the daytime and in the summertime, it's beautiful. The views, the seabirds, it's an incredible place. But on a night time, the team of people who go up there with us, you know, they'll tell you there's nobody up there. It's just devoid of anybody. It's, you know, even in summer after 9 o'clock, you don't see many people up there. And then, as I've said before, those beaches, we're at Bempton, you go down a little bit further to Speeton, Reeton, Hummonby, all of those locations, they get loads of footfall in the summer, they get loads of people on the beaches, but come the night time, it's very sparse. So what it meant to be, I don't know. Are all our lives mapped out? Is your life mapped out, Steve-O? It's difficult. We kind of make our own path, don't we? But it's difficult, isn't it? You know, everything seems to fall into place. You know, you want something, and if you want it bad enough, you generally tend to get it. It's difficult. Whether our lives are mapped out, I don't know. I've certainly ended up in a location where there's a lot of activity, and it's brilliant. Even at 63, I still get a buzz when I receive emails, and like today, I got that email today from Reeton, and this lady's took me right back to 1998. And a UFO sighting, which we'll talk about in a moment, and how incredible, because that sort of opens the doors then to Hummonby in 1998. And she's talking about September, to be honest with you. This lady's talking, she thinks it was September 1998. But then we've got the landed UFO on the cliff tops in November 1998, all within miles of each other. What was the attraction of this area? Or what is the attraction of this area? You know, the more and more that I get these reports, the more and more I think that it's a big stretch it's a big leap to say, but maybe there is some area where these things are coming from beneath the ocean, out in the North Sea, because it just seems too prolific with the UFO activity. And what I like about it is, yeah, I'm telling people, I'm putting it out there now to you guys. But other people are telling me, other people are coming forward. These aren't my sightings. These are the sightings of other people. So it's hard, if you're a skeptic, to get your head around why these sightings keep pouring in. And I just love it. We'll do these Hummonby sightings in a minute. I'll just look down for let's have a look. Yeah, we did as well. Bumps into, love the drone rescue video. Linny has skills. He's got loads of skills, hasn't he? He actually could pole vault with that great pole that he was wielding to get that drone out of the sky. Do you know I had to put my foot on the bottom of it and then just walk it up like a big 21 scaffold tube? It really were flexing, and I don't think anybody who's not watched it, go to the YouTube channel, not now, later, and have a look at our drone rescue. Because Lee and his team had lost a drone in a tree, Willie Howe, and myself and Ian. Well, we just didn't like the thought of them not being able to get the drone back, basically. We're really high up, so we managed to get it back for them. And it were broken, but I think it'll help with insurance and what have you, so that's got to be good, hasn't it? So, yeah, Linny has great skills, and that's not all he can do. He can talk as well. He's got a lot of skills at talking, but... he'll be laughing now, I think, or threatening to punch me when he sees me. So let's have a go at that. Right, let's just do a little bit more. Stephen Colin, let's just do this. I think these sightings of cryptids emit infrasound like big cats. Do you know, I think it was Sam Watson, who I saw in the chat earlier. Sam were talking about infrasound. He emailed me just a few days ago, and we've thought that, you know, Mark, who came on with Linny a few weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we were really lucky because Mark's pretty private, but he decided to come on, and he told you guys about that time that he felt the fear, which were totally out of character for Mark, as in feeling that type of fear when he walks about all over in the dark. And people, I'm not going over new ground here. I've said it loads and loads of times, but these are parts of the phenomena that we're dealing with that are really important. But whatever it is has got this ability to inflict fear on a person. Is it to keep them away? Is it to keep them safe? Like, as in, don't come any closer because I'm here, even if I'm invisible, but there's something being emitted that's dangerous to you? Or is it something that genuinely wants to harm you? These are all questions that we don't know. I realise that, but infrasound, yeah, why not? And we wouldn't hear it, would we? Peter Masters, and I hope you're feeling a bit better, Peter. Peter Masters spoke to me earlier in the week, and I had a long chat with him about the 1.6 gigahertz signal, because he's the electronics expert. And so that's something else that's strange, because a lot of the areas of eye strangeness around the world, they find this 1.6 gigahertz. Why is that? I know they found it at Skinwalker, and now they're looking in other locations where this signal's shown up. I know there's a farm. There's a farm in the area, and that's as close as I'm going to say, that's got all this equipment set up, hopefully to detect 1.6. And the equipment that they're using is the same as what they're using on that TV program. And that's 100% definite. And the equipment that we used is the same, because it was Pete's friend that developed it. And we went to the Rudston Monolith. Guess what? 1.6 gigahertz. There it is on laptop. I filmed it, a big bar of energy just peaking, a big spike. And there it is, 1.6 gigahertz from the Rudston Monolith. And I found that fascinating. We went to Bempton at the back of the old RAF base, on the cliff tops, not on their land. 1.6 gigahertz. We found it at Speeton, and then we went another time and it's not there. So it's intermittent. So did it just appear because we were looking for it? Is something playing with us? Who can say? So, right, let's just have a look. All right. Paul, when you saw the UFO from your bedroom window after your father woke you up to see it, did you have any experiences before that? I think, Rod, and anybody who doesn't know about this, this is probably why I'm as entrenched in this subject as I am, because of the experiences I had in childhood. And what Rob's referring to is in probably about 1966. It could be a bit later. I was born in 62, so I'd be 4 or 5 years old. My dad, ex-military, he was a glider pilot, not fast jet, glider pilot. Really strict man. That's safe. Kindest thing to say. Smack first, ask questions later. So I went to bed. Didn't get up. So, right, he wakes me up in the night, wakes me up to show me this orb, this lemon to white coloured orb, about 3/4 of the way up Mexborough Power Station's cooling tower on the side. And I'm watching it, and it's sort of turning within itself. It looked incredible, and he woke me up to look at it. I don't know how he knew it was there. Maybe he'd gone into the garden to have a cigarette because he smoked, so I don't know. So I'm looking at that. Then he left me, and so I'm assuming, I've always thought, well, he probably went back out into the garden to watch it, and he left me knelt on bed looking through a window at this UFO that seemed to then be just above the rooftops of the town of Mexborough, which were about a mile away. You could see all the lights and the street lights of the town of Mexborough, and descending onto Swinton. And I watched it just slowly travel along these rooftops, and it weren't like a 2-minute job. It was probably a 10-minute job. It just moved along the rooftops. And I remember craning my neck and watching it disappear towards Swinton. So to answer your question, Rod, to my knowledge, nothing before that. I think that was maybe the start of it. Whether that was the reason that the things happened, I've really got no idea. But I think that was the start of it. And I'd love to get into archive at the South Yorkshire Times in either Doncaster or Mexborough, which is where I was. I was in that little village called Old Dennerby, just a mile away, and have a look in the 1960s and see whether we could actually pinpoint it. Because I think there was a report of a UFO at the same time. I've never been able to track that one down, but I think there was, because there's a guy from Conisbrough who's interested in UFOs, and he's sent me little tidbits over the years, and he seems to think that there was. So that's that. Let's have a look. Let's do this sighting from Reeton Gap, because I think it's brilliant. Shall we? I wrote this up today. I think I've got better things to do with my time. Maybe take dog for a walk. But there you go. Let's have a look. So, hello, Paul. Well, I say I wrote it up. I've only adjusted it and structured it a little bit because most of this were done for me. They're not always. A lot of these are telephone conversations, and I have to make notes as I'm doing it. I'd like to talk to you about an experience that I had at Reeton Gap in 1998. So Reeton Gap, once again, if you're not familiar with the area, do some Google Earth images. There's nothing there. It's just sparsely populated, literally, and it's on a deep slope that goes down to the sea. And yeah, there's not a lot there. There's a caravan site there now, but right, 1998. I can't remember exactly when it was, but our daughter, I've emailed this lady again today, so I've got a little bit more information, was about 10 months old at the time. So I think it was late September, but might have been the beginning of October. The camp was still open though, so this is the holiday camp. So there's a little caravan site, or there was, it's a lot bigger now, down there. At the time, my husband and I were staying at my grandmother-in-law's, who lived on Reeton Clifftops at the time. I had fallen asleep on the sofa. I woke in the early hours to the most strange, silent feeling. We're there again, aren't we? We're in the zone again. This is the first thing that this lady experienced. She didn't know she was going to see a UFO. Didn't know she was going to see a cryptid. Yeah, I'm on about this phenomena, this thread of the strangeness weaves through everything. She didn't see a cryptid, by the way. But what I'm saying is, everybody who's got a report, a lot of the times there's this strange atmospheric change that takes place. So this strange silent feeling. It was the silence that disturbed me at first, and it was the complete silence that made me look out of the window. I couldn't hear the sea or the wind, only an eerie silence. Anyone who knows that area knows that the sea collides with the cliffs and you can hear it. She's spot on. Absolutely. Through the living room window, I saw a strange oblong craft. It looked huge. It looked to have windows all over the craft. The craft was, these are her words, craft. The craft was massive. It filled the full view coming over the rooftops next door. It's very low as well. It was about midnight, maybe a bit earlier, and the craft was a dark grey colour with what looked like tiny window lights all over it. It's incredible, isn't it? You look at this lady's talking about something that sounds like it's from a science fiction movie, and it's travelling along rooftops, basically, of a little, I won't say nondescript village, it'd be a lovely place to live, but a little village, not even a village, it's just sparsely populated, the Reeton Gap. The craft was so low that there should have been some sort of noise, but it was silent. It is never silent as you can normally hear the sea. Right, it scared me so much that when the dog was curled up in the chair and it moved, I thought the aliens were coming to get me. The craft moved like it had just taken off, and so she obviously thinks that maybe she hadn't said that. I'm speaking to her tomorrow, all being well, and obviously she can only surmise. You're getting the bulk of what it is now. I don't think she saw it rise up from anywhere. It just came over the roof. Let's have a look. The craft moved slowly, and as though it had just taken off until it got past the cliffs, and then it vanished. And she means it literally it had gone. As soon as the craft sped off, the sound came back. It's fabulous, isn't it? Obviously, the atmospheric changes. Is it due to whatever this object is emitting? Do you think? Or is it due, because if it is, then it's changing the atmosphere, but we've got smaller things that can do the same thing. Look at the guy who went up into the paddock and perceived this strange change in atmosphere, and he'd seen a figure roughly 5 foot tall by 3 foot wide. Not some monstrous UFO with lights emitting all around it. So are they all using the same type of exotic science to do what they're wanting to do? Anyway, let me carry on. It was like watching a Star Wars film. As soon as it sped off, the sound came back. The craft never made a sound. The dog hid until the craft had gone, but came out of hiding soon as the sound came back. The whole experience was over in about 5 minutes. I watched I watched the craft glide over the camp and then over the rooftop of next doors. It was that low that I thought it was just taking off. No noise, no bushes or trees, nothing moved. It just vanished. I hadn't had a drink. I don't do drugs. The only thing I'd done was I'd been sleeping. So fabulous. Don't you think that were an incredible sighting? That's 1998 at Reeton, literally, what, 6-7 miles from where I'm sat now. And we've got the actual ice strangeness taking place, because everybody's heard me talk about Hummonby. 1998, throughout the year of 1998, 7 and 6, 97 and 96, those guys at the industrial unit were experiencing all manner of unexplained phenomena, and ultimately it's kind of culminated with the landed flying saucer at the back of the industrial unit. I mean, it's just fabulous, and I can't get enough of these reports. As soon as I saw that, and I thought 1998, Reeton. Ironic that I'd just been to Hummonby Gap a few days prior to talk about another sighting, which I'll talk about now. And this, I ain't got this wrote down, but it's in my head, so it doesn't matter. So I went to meet this lady. She contacted me a few years ago, and it's like a lot of reports that I've got, I do get round to them, but I've just got so much to do. And I don't just mean with this, I mean just with life in general. So I went and met her. She lives at Hummonby Gap, and it's a beautiful little place. There's a little row of bungalows that overlook the sea. You've got a bit of woodland in front, but you can see the sea. And I think, let me just get my date right, July the 2nd, 2017. And this lady had gone to bed, woke up at about 4 a.m., 4:30, beautiful morning, lovely blue sky, and used the bathroom. And as she passes on her landing, she can look out towards the sea. And to her left would be Filey Brig. So you're not far from Filey. As the crow flies, she's probably only about 4 miles. And then to her right, obviously, you would have Speeton and Bempton. So she's bang in the zone. And she notices a strip of black cloud in the sky over Filey Brig, and quite low. And she used, when I spoke to her, we stood in her back garden in the week, and there's next door's gutter, the bottom of the gutter, and they're only bungalows. She said it were about level with the gutter, but obviously out over the sea. So it could have been a lot higher, you know, with perspective. So she said, I'm looking at this. It don't look right. Can't understand it. It's a black strip of cloud, like oblong. So and then it started to move, and it moved quite fast. So I can't take my eyes off it. She says, and as it's moving, it's kind of breaking up. So I got my phone, and she managed to take one picture, which I've got the picture. It's not showing anything apart from a black strip of cloud in a blue sky. You know, pareidolia, we could say that there's something in it, and you'll know what I'm talking about in a moment. But her description of what she saw, she said it sort of finished level with my window, but not obviously close to it, out at sea. And the cloud, whatever it was, broke up and disappeared, revealing 3 black pyramids. You see, I'd always said there were triangles, but speaking to this lady face to face a few days ago, they were tall and not as wide at the base. So there's 3 black pyramids. They're just there. Suddenly, a thought ran through her head. If I can see them, they can see me. And she became absolutely petrified, really, really frightened. As I would say, a little bit hesitant to talk about it, to be honest, when we spoke about it a few days ago. And instead of staying, which in hindsight she wished she had have done, and she wished she'd have took some photographs or more photographs, she said, I just turned, I went straight to the bedroom under the duvet, and I just stayed there till morning. And then obviously you get up, go about your day, and that's it. There's nothing else. Now, there was a sighting in Bridlington. Now that's one I've got to chase up. Anybody in Bridlington who wants to do a bit of work for me on that, or if you've got any ideas, there were definitely a sighting on that morning or on that day or the day before or after of unidentified flying objects. So I've got to do a bit of digging and see if I can find that. Not that it proves or disproves Jean's sighting. It's an incredible account. But doesn't it make you wonder what's happening there? Literally, if she'd have looked to her left from where she was stood and gone less than a mile, she'd have been at Reeton, where that lady in 1998 saw that huge object. If she'd have gone a mile the other way, she'd have been at Speeton, where all of that UFO activity takes place. Where literally, I've just said that if I had to stick a pin in map for myself and say which is the most active area for UFOs, I'd say Speeton, because of the amount of reports I get from Speeton when there gets no footfall. Don't make sense, does it? So I don't know what you guys think, and I do apologise. Obviously, if I don't get to all your questions, if you've sent a question, because I've been asking for them, but let me just get that out of the way. So I talked about the Hummingbee and the flying saucer, didn't I? And I got a flying saucer report the other week, and it's brilliant, isn't it? It's brilliant because Hummingbee had it all. Hummingbee had everything. A few days before the flying saucer that these three men saw landed at the back of the compound, back of the industrial unit, back in I think it was June, July, August, I think, I can't remember now, 1998. A few days before, 3 triangles were seen, 3 black triangles, which is interesting, isn't it? Because they sound like chalk and cheese, don't they? Like a flying saucer and a flying saucer and a flying triangle. They don't sound like they sound like something from fantasy, really, but they don't sound like they fit together yet. Both of these things were seen in close proximity. So got another one here. Now we're jumping back to 1974. And let's just have a look at this. Classic flying saucer, 1974. I've got all details for this lady, but we'll just call her Angie. That's her name. Right, let's have a look. My name is Angie, and I currently live in Cornwall. I would like to share my own UFO experience from July. June, July, is a really prevalent month for sightings, especially in this area. From July 1975, when I was out playing with my older sister and 4 school friends. It was during the summer holidays in 74 and just after my 7th birthday. We were living in a village called Deddington in Oxfordshire, where our house backed onto open fields. Okay, let's just do a little bit more. At the end of the garden, there was a stone wall about 4 foot high, which we used to climb over and go and play in the fields. It was a perfectly clear summer's day, mid-afternoon, and the sun was shining. We walked down the lane through some trees and onto the farm track, and through the middle of the crop. Well done. It's not recommended. I've done it myself, I'll tell you about that in a minute. The field sloped gently down towards the field sloped gently downwards away from the house, and the wheat was approximately 3 foot high and almost ready to harvest. While we were walking on the top part of the field, we noticed a UFO coming towards us, moving up from the lower end of the field. It was only a few feet above the crop and was moving very slowly. It sounds like something from Close Encounters, doesn't it? How incredible is that, to see something like that? And then 1974, this lady's carried it. And I'm lucky enough that, and really thank you, Angie, for sharing this with me. And now you guys are getting it as well. I guess we were less than 20 yards away from the craft. The width of it took up the width of the track, plus a bit extra on each side. It was approximately 15 feet in diameter, a classic silver disc-shaped craft with a black rectangular window section on the top half. We heard a low vibrational humming sound as it approached us. We saw it for approximately 10 to 20 seconds before it shot off at speed. According to my sister, who saw it shoot up into the sky. I was shocked at the sighting. I remember thinking, they're not going to get me, as the rest of us ran back up to our home in panic mode. Climbed over the garden wall at top speed. My sister returned home a few minutes later, wondering where I was. Obviously, she's a bit slower. We told Mum and Dad at the time, and when we moved out of the village later that year. It's odd that our school friends never mentioned it. This is my truthful experience, and I still think about it at times. Right. There you go. I'd like to add that the house we lived in was in a direct flight path to USAF Upper Hayford, and we used to regularly see B-52 bombers over our house, 3 B-52 bombers over our house at once. So, was that military tech? It had a little black box on top of it that she assumed was some kind of window area. Battery just fell off then. I don't know. Interesting though, isn't it? It's fabulous. I just can't get enough of these reports. She ran through crop. You know, years ago, when I lived at Old Dennerby, we'd go up into Old Dennerby Woods. I'd probably be about 13, 14, and there was a pond in a group of willow trees and the thicket of things. It looked like a long way away. We're all way over in fields. It just stood on its own. And we made our way over to this pond. We didn't know it were a pond. We made our way over to it. It's a pond. It's beautiful. There's trout in it, and there's a little stream running through it. We knew nothing about it, so we took fishing rods, and we caught. I remember catching one. I caught one, and I put it in my bait tin, and then we ran all the way through the field. I'm not advocating anybody do this. I was a little boy. Then I ran back at farmer were waiting for me at the other end, and took me to see my dad. And I got I got more than a telling off my dad, if I'm being truthful. And I know other lad did who were with me. So yeah, the moral of the story is don't run through farmers' crops. It's not advised and it's not good. And yeah, there you go. What we're gonna do here? Let's have a look. Iron Mogul, the thing that looked like it had a backpack on. Shouldn't the heat have looked black? Like, yes, it should. Isn't that interesting? I do agree. I said that to Jeremy at the time. You know, when we've looked at it since, I said it's not a regular heat signature, even, is it? Whoever spoke earlier, whoever put the question in earlier, said, "Could you see little white flexy bits inside it?" You can see that. You definitely can. But excuse me. Yeah, I do think that it should have had a lot stronger heat signature. But I still jump back to the fact that he's looking at this on his phone, which is a Samsung Ultra 25 Ultra. So he's got his thermal fixed up to that, and he's looking at it through the phone, and he's got a torch on. And I'm repeating myself, but it's important. The torch casts a beam further than the object that he can see in thermal, and he can't see it with the naked eye. What's that telling us? You know, but interesting. Let's have a look, see if there's any more questions. There probably is, but I just have to hold them, see. I can't go, if I start messing about, I'll end up just missing people. Did your friend who lived in Danesdyke have any unusual experiences at the time I was living there? Yeah, he did. And I've found out since that there's a few more, but it's such a private person. And rightly so, that's how he wanted to be. When I first started sort of striking up conversations with him, obviously he didn't know me, and it turned out that we'd lived. When I talked earlier about seeing the UFO on the side of the cooling tower at Mexborough Power Station, then I watched it disappear to the next village town of Swinton. He used to live in Swinton. So we'd got a connection. You know, when I found out he was from South Yorkshire and he'd lived in Swinton, and he knew places, and we used to talk about, I don't know, things that were of mutual interest from where we used to live. And that's how, not a great friendship, but the friendships kind of grew, and we got to know each other. Because when I first asked him if he'd seen anything unusual, he'd not seen nothing. Never seen anything. He's just give you a sarcastic grin and say, "Oh, I once saw a rabbit," and deadpan, not say hotels. But then he let on that he'd seen the black cat. You know, the black cat that a lot of people are keen to say they don't exist, they're not here. I've walked around Danesdyke for 20 years with my dog or whatever, and I've never seen one. Well, he lived there for 13 years in a tent, and he saw it twice. So don't think that you're going to see one just because you've walked around it one afternoon with your dog. I guess that's what I'm saying. So, and I found out since, and I won't go into detail until I speak to him, and if I get a chance to speak to him. I do occasionally, you know, we still exchange text messages and what have you, because he's not in area now. He's seen something else as well, but that's all I will say on that one. But it's interesting, isn't it? Unusual experience as well. Imagine living there for all those years. Do you know what? I went one morning to see him, check everything were okay, and he sat outside his tent, and he had a little plastic tub, you know, the ones with the little lips that you flick up. You've got like 4 sides to it, and he kept waste food in it. And I don't mean rubbish, just bits of bread and bits of biscuit that he weren't gonna eat. And he sat outside his tent, and he got this little plastic tub and opened it up. And soon as he opened it up, a robin landed on his hand. You know what I mean? I know it's nothing, it's not unexplained phenomena, but he'd almost become part of nature itself, because he literally did live there in a tent for 13 years without a fire. No evidence of a fire. How do you do that? Made of stronger stuff than me. It's just crazy, isn't it? But and before people say, well, he must have had a fire. No, he didn't. Salvation Army used to ring me, and they'd say, look, he hasn't been in, because he used to nip into Salvation Army in Bridlington quite often. And they said, we've not seen anything of him. And they'd ring me at night. Can you go and check on him? And I'd have to drive to Danes Dyke and take my thermal camera, and then I'd pick him out amongst the trees. I knew where he'd be. I knew where his camp was. No fire, nothing, because he didn't want anybody to know where he was. So we'll just let's have a look. Chris Mack, a horse would be glowing with heat. Do you know, Chris? It's great. It's great having these questions, because the question before was from whoever said it. I apologise for not catching who it was. You'd said that, you know, the heat signature, surely it would have been black, and you're absolutely spot on. And to the people who say it was a horse, it wasn't a black heat signature. Remember that Jeremy, after this thing had disappeared, had a scan round the field and fixed his, not fixed, but he caught a fox in his thermal, the same thermal. It's a black heat signature, and a horse would have done the same. That's brilliant, that, Chris, because I'd not thought of that. Absolutely brilliant. It's not brilliant. It's not rocket science, is it? But I'd not thought of it. But then again, I'm not brilliant. Let's have a go. Red Fred, have there been any reports of strange encounters further up the coastline? You've stirred us do one, Fred, from Reeton and Primrose Valley and Filey. Lots at Filey. Lots, and Primrose Valley. I think it's the whole area is a hotbed of activity. And I just think that we're just sort of touching the real tip of the iceberg. I think there's people sat maybe even watching this or watching this afterwards, because you develop an interest once you've seen something, don't you? Let's face it, that's why you guys are here tonight. Once you've seen something that's truly profound, you develop an avid interest and you want to look into it even more. And yeah, the whole area, and right up North Yorkshire, so we haven't got the dibs on the Pot of Gold or where it's all happening. Don't forget that this thing that the lady saw in 1998, it had to go somewhere else, didn't it? Unless it went straight out to sea. So there could be people seeing these things at Bridlington, seeing them at Filey or whatever, So it's fascinating. Don't forget, in 1998 as well, I don't know which the paper was. I think it was the Daily Mail, but I could be wrong. But they documented, or they did an article about over the North Sea, a 1,000-foot UFO, a UFO the size of a battleship, flying. I think they said 17,000 miles an hour had been tracked on radar going over the North Sea. So that's fascinating in itself, because myself and Bob went to Bempton to do what we do when we get on these cliff tops. What Linny does, Pete does, what we all do, Jeremy and Chris. And as we're walking up the path, as we're walking down, there's two men just leaving the area. They'd been bird spotting, and we go when everybody sort of leaves. He knew who I was. It's Paul, isn't it? I said, yeah. He gets talking. He says, I've got a UFO sighting I'd like to tell you about. This is literally off the cuff, just random. I says, okay, yeah, what would you like to tell me about? And I just left Bob. Bob started walking down, and we were stood midpoint on the path. And I walked back up with this man and his friend. Once again, 1998. And this one weren't planned. So do you know what I mean? This, I've just... I don't know whether they were divorced or whether they were just him and his daughter anyway. He said he used to take his daughter to this little cafe that had a few amusements close to Scarborough and take her for a drink odd times on a night. And they'd have, I don't know, bite to eat. I don't really know, but they're there and it's overlooking sea. And they can see Bempton and Speeton cliffs in the distance. And on this night in 1998, he said, in the darkness, we're looking up, we can see there's a bit of moonlight, we can see the silhouette of the cliffs. A light popped out of the cliffs. He says, at least that's what it looked like. Now, we know that's difficult because you're looking probably at least 8 miles away, so it can be deceptive. But the 400-foot cliffs, and if it's come round the corner from Flamborough or Bempton, then it's still there. But what makes me think he's saying the plopped out is my description, where I'll give you next. He said it plopped out of the cliff. He says, and then another one and another one, and another one. He says, and I think there were 5 big spheres of light that were over the sea. And he knows this because he said they were probably halfway up the cliff, so it's not something on the sea. He says, and they're all there in a row with a space the size of one of the spheres of light between each light, and in the middle there's a red light on top. He thinks they were all joined, but if they weren't, they were all moving as one. He said they moved out in an arc across the sea and then came back. He said, and they did that several times. He said, he's in this cafe or this small restaurant, I think a cafe. Him and his daughter's looking at it. There's somebody else in, they're all looking at it. He said, and we could even get an estimate. Remember I said the cliffs there, the ice point 420. He said the light stretched out twice as much as the cliffs, because I call it the 1,000-foot UFO, where I wrote about it in one of the books. I can't remember which one it's in. I think it's in book 2. And and so anyway, he said after a while, after it's doing this arc movement, not up and down, it's just moving like in an arc across. He said they just sort of retracted back into the cliff and they'd gone. When he'd gone, because when I got to the top, and I'm stood with him at the edge of the gate where you'd go into the car park, I said, so roughly how long do you think this was then? He says, well, he said, obviously, it's 1998. It's a long time ago, but I'm looking down that path now to where your friend is over there at the bottom of the cliffs. He says, and it was further out than him, and I reckon it'll have been hung over the sea as well. I thought, okay, fair enough. So I did a rough calculation on my way down, how many paces it were, and it worked out about 900 foot. And then you'd got, in his estimation, some object over the cliffs as well, if we were going to use that as a guide. Of course, we'll never know, will we? So I call it the 1,000-foot UFO, 1998, which ties in nicely with I think it was the Daily Mail article, one of these national newspapers that talked about the battleship-sized UFO traveling over the North Sea at 17,000 miles an hour. I don't know. Is everybody mistaken? Is that guy mistaken by what he's seen? What it's 600 foot? What it's 400 foot? It's still huge. He's still seeing something unusual. Just because we don't know the exacts. I mean, and it's terrible, isn't it? Because everybody says, like, everyone's got phones now. Why aren't we getting pictures of these things? Why aren't CCTV catching these things? I haven't got an answer for that, I really haven't, but it's not stopping these reports coming in, so it don't make it any less true for me that there's something very strange happening. Let's have a look. Does Bobster like cold mornings? Bobster likes everything. I tell you what, he don't like Hoover. He's frightened of Hoover for some reason, and nobody's chased him with it. He don't like Hoovers. He's got a big big enemy at Hoovers. If he sees an Hoover, he goes into the room. The cold mornings don't seem to bother him. He's like a little sheep, isn't he? He's covered in that thick fur, so he's okay. He could do with trimming him a little bit, actually. So Bobster, cold mornings. Now he copes with it. He's okay. He goes into sync when I fetch him back, to get all crap off his paws, because he does get sort of clogged up. Let's have a look. Right, let's have a look at this. Alienate UK, that's Andy, innit? Good to see you, mate. Paul, you've probably been asked this thousands of times, but why do you think there's so much activity in your part? I don't know, mate. It's definitely not because of us. We're not somehow evoking this, but what we are doing, and I don't just mean myself, I mean Pete, Lenny, everybody, we're actively looking for these accounts. I mean, Ian's found some brilliant stories. I mean, we've got a guy who works at one of Timber Yards in Bridlington to talk to, who's got an incredible sighting. And I knew him. Ian's known him longer than me, but I knew him because of the Wilsthorpe incident. I've got to talk to him about that because he saw something then as regards the military and what have you. But he's also got a UFO sighting to share. But no, I don't think that we're responsible for any of that. I remember I've been through these newspaper archives in Scarborough, in Bridlington. I've been all over the Treasure House looking specifically for not just UFOs, unexplained phenomena reports. And it's no easy task. You get the microfilm, you put that in for a year, and you're going through every newspaper. And I've done them, every single newspaper. And you're either writing down what it is, or you're printing it off at, it's not that dear, it's 50p a sheet, but and you don't find that many. But what I'm saying is, it's thrown up hundreds and hundreds of unexplained phenomena reports for the area. It's all there, but it slips under the radar, because you imagine if you only got 3 or 4 a year in one newspaper, and then you've got a few in another newspaper. Some of them are the same, they replicate, don't they? But it goes into hundreds. And then, like we said earlier, we're only the tip of the iceberg. There's people probably watching this right now who've got a report, who've got something to share. I was contacted by a couple in Bempton a few years ago, and I don't mean I've given up trying to contact them. It's up to them. If they're kind enough to share an account with me, I'll try and make effort to listen to it. And I believe that they'd seen something highly unusual, and they were talking about, it could have been somebody in a mask, but they were talking about seeing, whilst watching the TV, in their room. Imagine we've all done it. Just watch curtains open at back of your house. Darkness. A grey alien stood at the window. When I read the message and spoke to them once, it sounded like they had seen what they were saying they'd seen. I'm not saying that there's somebody not playing a prank, but I needed more detail. But they've just dropped off radar. There's no more on that. So that's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. As I say, hopefully I'll get to speak about this Reeton UFO sighting, which I think we've probably got the bulk of it now, but we might get a little bit more, next few days. I might be able to fill you in on a little bit more on Sunday, all being well. Let's just have a look. What's this say? If you're into the channel, please fill in alien disclosure. Yep, that's myself and Martin Abbas's stratification tool, where we're just wanting your reports, your information, to see if there's any patterns forming. And Lee, everybody's familiar with Lee Roscoe, and he's always helping us and doing great things for me. He's absolutely, just like Alison does and Gemma. But Lee, you've got your own YouTube channel. Let's get it up. I'm saying that, I'm talking out my backside here. I'll put it up after, because I might not get down to see it now. But if you've done it at all, Lee, let's see that YouTube channel put up on here in capital letters, because gravitate over to Lee's channel, please, and give him a bit of support, because he works hard, so he can't always fit in all detail and get on and start putting content out like I'm managing to put out at the moment, because he's working for a living, he's working hard. But give his channel a bit of support. I guess that's what I'm saying. And incidentally, Christmas is coming up. If you're interested in the Truth Proof books, truthproof.uk for the paperback books and copies of the Wolflands DVD. Anything that's ordered will be sent out the next day, unless it's weekend, of course. You can also watch Wolflands on Amazon Prime, and you can read the Truth Proof books on Amazon Kindle. Somebody did say in a comment, I think it was last week, I like how he strategically placed the books. That's what it's all about. Money, 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 they said in comment. And am I not allowed to advertise my own books? Is there something wrong with that? Seriously, if there is, then this isn't the channel for you, because if I can't do that, then there's something wrong, isn't there? So anyway, that was that one, my little rant over. So let's just do this. Right, Martin James, do you think it started to pixelate? Sorry to mention again, but it fascinates me. And I take it we're talking about this lady at Hummonby Gap who saw the clouds sort of disappearing. If I'm wrong, Martin, I apologise. I did ask her that. She said, no, they just kind of broke up and dissolved. But that might be somebody's interpreting. You might interpret that as pixelating. The guy who saw the figure on the beach at Hornsey, and when he stood up and he became aware of him, it just pixelated. His words were pixelated out of existence. So maybe it did. I might not have got right story for your question there, Martin. So apologise if I didn't. Let's have a look. Gillian Staples, dressmaker. Apologies if someone has suggested this, but had anyone considered going up to the figure and seeing if it... Yes. Good question though, Gillian. Jeremy actually says it. If you've listened to the footage or watch the footage, you might hear him saying, I've got to go and look at it. Or I've got to go and say hello. Because at this time, he's not thinking something unexplained phenomena. He was thinking that there's a figure stood over there. Couldn't understand when he's putting his torch on it. It totally bamboozled him. But it didn't frighten him, which is interesting. And, you know, I think maybe it would have unnerved me. But, yeah, he did consider that. Let's have a look. Do we think there may be an alien base under the North Sea? We can think it, can't we? I mean, there's got to be some reason why these things are seen. We'll talk about the triangles at Hummunby, 1998. They were coming from the North Sea. We talk about the objects that this lady's seen, Jean, in 2017. It were over the North Sea. Talk about all these lights that we're seeing over the North Sea. We're talking about lights that we've actually filmed under the North Sea. So there's got to be some reason that they're there. Whether it's because there's a base out there, I don't know. You would have thought if there was that, you know, our governments would have detected it. Maybe they have. I know there's a submarine training ground out there that's a no-go zone. So is it a submarine training ground? It probably is. But do you know what I'm saying? It's all difficult to say, isn't it? We're sort of feeling in dark. What we get to know, what we get told as a populace is zilch compared to what might actually be happening and what might actually be known about. Don't forget, just off Bempton and Flamborough, I think it's about, I could be wrong, you've got about 70 miles to the foot of where Doggerland was, the land bridge between Europe. You know, that's in, sort of going back thousands of years, there would have been a land bridge there. So you've got Doggerland there, but you've also got the Silver Pit crater, which is a huge impact crater, which is very, very deep. I mean, what's the Silver Pit crater all about? I don't know. It sounds exotic as well, by the way, calling it the Silver Pit crater, which is what its name is. But it's only called that because of the men who were fishing that area. But when they were trawling, it caught vast amounts, large quantities of silverfish. So it's the Silver Pit crater, not for some UFO reason, because of fish. Sorry to burst anybody's bubble there with that one, but let's have a look. Paul, I have often thought about your walk back home on New Year's Eve when you were a young boy with your parents, when you saw the strange creatures in a nearby field. Any more thoughts on what they were? I think they were a distraction. I think that story would take too long to tell, Fred, but I think that they were a distraction for what were happening or what were in that field. It's difficult to say because they look real. And just to briefly to tell you guys who don't know, and I've wrote about it in Night People. Sorry for giving me book a plug if it offends anybody. But I've wrote about it in there on New Year's Eve. I think it was, what did you say, 1970? Going into 1971. We'd been to a party at a working men's club, the sports club called Dale and Brown Sports Club, Swinton. Walking back from Swinton, walking across, it was thick with snow and ice. Everything was frozen. You could hear your feet crunching under feet. And walked across the railway bridge. Walked across the River Don Bridge, across the railway line. And when we look down the railway line, there's 2 rabbits and a guinea pig in the grass on the left-hand side. It's New Year's Eve, it's early hours at morning. And these weren't wild animals. These were pets. They didn't run away. And Paul being Paul, I said I weren't going to tell this, didn't I? But Paul being Paul, I wanted them. I just wanted them for the sake of wanting them. And my dad pulled me away. Oh, my mum pulled me away, and my dad says, "Get hold of him, don't let him go." And he'd obviously seen something else because I could hear my mum saying, "What other Bob?" My dad was called Robert. His nickname was Bob, and I can't understand it because my eyes are fixed on these animals. And I made another attempt, and he says, "Get hold of him," pulled me back. And we eventually, they sort of dragged me past these animals, and I knew better. I was more frightened of my dad than hotels, to be honest with you. So I knew better not to push it because he wouldn't have thought twice about smacking me. And one final turn back to look, and there were only what I can only describe. And remember, I'm looking at these animals on the left-hand side as we're going down. When I turn round, they're on my right-hand side. 2 figures that look like aliens in field. They were there. They were set back in field, in snow. I know. Anybody listening to this, I know what it must sound like, but I'm not gonna dress it up any different or not talk about it because somebody might not believe it because I've gone past all that now. These things happened. These things were real to me. Waking up in 1990s with what the doctors have called punch hole lesions in my arms and my back. I'm not going to pretend anymore that I don't know how it could have happened anyway, but I'm not going to pretend anymore. I'm just talking about it as it is. These things happened, and that's that. So, any ideas? I've detracted there, Fred Hunter, so I do apologise. Any more thoughts on what they were? Apart from a distraction, Fred, that's all I can think. I really don't know. I don't think they could have been real even. But you know, there's a man still. Well, the man's alive, but his mum's still alive. I remember a few days after that had happened, a lady who lived next door but one, who seemed old then, but she would to me as a little boy. She was telling me mum, she'd come round to say that her son had seen something in early hours at morning coming home that same morning. And I got told to go upstairs or go and play. I can't remember which. And incidentally, I was talking to somebody in the area recently and on about this man and saying, I'd like to speak to him. And he said, I saw him a few days ago. This is last year now. He went to visit his mum. She's still alive, old lady. She's still in the same house, which is fascinating, really, because she'll be at least 100 years old now. So there you go. Not that she'd probably remember that, but right. Let's have a look at this. Came across a latest report incident from the States. A guy went looking in a cave, in cave systems. He didn't tell a soul. He was about to enter the cave when two men in suits appeared in seconds. How and why? It's fascinating, isn't it, Zen? It really is. How do people know and I don't know. You know, I suppose everybody's there in chat and they're probably saying, well, how could you know? It's true. There's a place near where we do a little bit of research and it's private land. We don't go on it. But I know that for some reason, because we can go up there, you know, all year round and with thermal cameras, remember, or you know if there's anybody on that land. You just know. And there's no end of people actually been up there and said they've been there and within, I don't know, 10 minutes, people have arrived and moved them off. There's no exotic up there. There's no, unless you want to tread in cow muck. There's nothing there. I wouldn't recommend anybody going on that land. Don't even have to say where it is. But, you know, we're not into trespassing anyway. So, yeah, how would they know? Two men in suits appeared. I mean, in suits, that is entering a cave system and men in suits appear. I mean, that sounds crazy in itself, doesn't it, Zen? But, you know, Bob Brown, 2017, he still works in a charity shop now. Bob, everybody knows Bob. He used to come out with me all the time until his knees and his hip got quite bad. And he did a bit of house sitting on Cardigan Road. Basically, this man had gone on holiday for probably about 6 weeks. I don't know exact length of time. And Bob was staying in the house and looking after the dog. On a morning, part of what he did, he used to get up and take the dog for a walk on the beach. And this particular morning, he saw a strange, he took some pictures of it. And all it is, it's like Terry's picture, really. With a phone, it never gives it justice. But like Terry's film, he's got like this glinting object over the sea that he's looking at. Probably looked more spectacular when he were looking at it than what it looked in a photograph. It's like taking a picture at moon, isn't it, over your phone, and that. It all looks disappointing. But after that, he said, I went into charity shop, see how we were this particular day, and he said something had happened. There were a few incidents in between it all, but he said something had happened. Bob said, I said, well, what do you mean something's happened? He says, well, I'll tell you later. And that was unusual because he's always buoyant and sort of upbeat, is Bob. So I got to talk to him in private. And this house, I went into house, it's got like a set of doors and a little porch, probably about 3 foot deep, where you take your shoes off. And those inner doors are glass with Flemish glass in. You can't see through it, but you can see the outline. He said, there's a knock at the door. He said, the dog's going mad. He says, I put the dog in the back garden. Not because he thought there were anybody unusual. Just didn't want dog come dashing through. He says, and as I'm coming to the door, he says, I thought it's two police officers. See these dark outlines through this Flemish glass. So I opened the door to the clear glass, and there's two men there in black suits, fedora hats, pale skin. He said, I said, what do you want? he says, and they're talking. He says, and I can't hear them right. And I opened the door slightly. But I get Bob on and let him tell us about this. He'd better telling it than me. And gist of it was, they told him that he'd seen something he shouldn't have seen. He said, and I became really frightened. And I slammed the door, literally slammed the door shut, come inside, shut the inner doors with the frosted glass, the Flemish glass. He says, and then I went straight upstairs to see where they'd gone. When he got upstairs and he's looking, they're nowhere to be seen, right or left on Cardigan Road. But the interesting part was, he said it was daylight when he spoke to him. It was evening, but it was daylight. He says, but when I went upstairs, it was dark, which is, how does that work? So that's a little story that sort of rattled Bob, let's put it that way. But men in suits appeared in seconds. How and why? Who can say? I don't know, Zen, to be honest. Let's have a look, Mr. Linney. I realise I'm not going to get to a lot of questions here, please. So, I did ask Lee to put a link up or in capitals about his YouTube channel. So please get over to Lee's YouTube channel, and I'm sure he might have put it up for you guys to see and give him a bit of support. Paul, Elaine has told me a strange thing has happened in her car. Her mints keep disappearing. Any thoughts? Do you know? I have no idea who could be eating them. I really am, you know. It's strange, is that, because I have noticed, and I'm being serious here, people, when I get in Linny's car, there's a pack of mints. They're near me in a bag. And I noticed that there's never as many mints there when I leave that car. How does that work? I don't know. Thanks for that, Ian. Let's have a good one. Let's have a look. I knew I'd get blamed for summer. Let's have a look. 314. Superb. It's 348 here now, but thank you, Davos. Let's have a few more likes to this great channel, folks. Thank you very much for highlighting that, and because I never think to say it. So if you've not been on before, or if you've not done it before, you'll have something that says subscribe close to you. It's free. Just press it. Appreciated. Like and subscribe. It really is appreciated. And if you don't want to do it, don't. But not to lose. Let's have a look here. Let's have a go. Let's see what Alice said. You can also buy Truthful books for sets. Night, people. It's brilliant, isn't it? Thanks a lot, Lee. Let's have a look. Peter Leach. Paul, has there been any more weird screams and howls being heard since October? I got some strange sounds, and Peter's talking about Danes Dyke. And, I'd spoken to Peter, and he told me he'd heard from somebody about an unusual howling sound in early hours at morning, October in Danes Dyke. Of course, it could be anybody or anything. It could be people. It could be some weird animal that we haven't identified. But it's strange that during October, I think I've had 3 cryptid reports now from the month of October. I mean, Michael, who spent quite a bit of time with us now, I don't know what that was. He had a strange report in afternoon, or no, late morning. I think it was about 11:30, 11:45, and he saw something cryptid related in Danes Dyke. Then we've got these others near the road. Everybody mistaken? I don't know. I don't think that they are. But then also we're getting these strange howls and screams in the sort of dead of night. There were a couple who lived on Lighthouse Road who were looking over towards Danes Dyke. Their windows, so bedroom windows, so they can look out over on towards the dyke. And they'd heard them over a few years, but always in October. And they got in touch with me and told me all about that. But there you go. I don't know, Peter. And some great stories come out of there. And thanks for highlighting that, Peter. Oh, incidentally, the guy who was waiting for the bus on October 2020. There's another noise out there. The guy was waiting for the bus in October 2020. He lost my thread now because of weird noise out there. Then I don't know what that was. The guy waiting for the bus in October 2020, who said that this animal came up out of the dyke and sort of put its head between the posts, the gate post and the fence, the wooden fence, and said, "I kid you not, his face looked half human, half dog." I bumped into him on Saturday. I thought he'd left area. So we've agreed to meet up in next week or two, and we're going to go there. And hopefully, I know I've spoken about it loads of times, and he allowed me to record him. But so all you're going to get is a repeat, but it'll be brilliant for me, because it adds strength to what I'm talking about, and good for you guys to actually see the man who saw this strange creature. So I think he's going to do that. So that will be good. Let's just keep running down here. I'll do questions, or I can. Did somebody put something about rhubarb then? I must have missed that. Oh, yeah. This is what it's all about when we get the truth proof in it. Paul, rhubarb and prunes. Yeah, they'll make you move fast along the cliff tops. Yeah, it's horrible. Who would want rhubarb? I mean, why does it? It's not even been invented for what? It's like wasps. They're horrible, aren't they? What use of wasps? And, you know, it's just an horrible thing. And somebody will jump all over that and say, oh, it's the part of ecosystem, which they are. I'm only a bit of tongue in cheek, you know, lighten up. So let's have a look. Would be interesting to know if Astro Dog have any MIB stroke search and rescue encounters, if the military or some secret groups are looking at the sky, organized groups are looking up at the sky. It's interesting, yeah. Astro Dog are a group of people. I don't know if they're just based in Scarborough, but the ones, I wouldn't say I know, but I've been tagged in what they're about. And they're a group of astronomers that have started occasionally. I think they've been working in Dalby Forest, obviously looking at the skies. But I think they're having a few sessions. I don't know whether every month or once a month. I don't know what the detail is because I'm not involved in it. But they're going to Bempton, looking at the night sky. And I think they came up one Friday about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We didn't bother going. And why didn't we bother going? Because we didn't want to pollute the night sky with any torches or anything to spoil what they were doing. There's plenty of places we can go, and they hardly ever come up there. So, but you're right, Bumpsin. It would be good if they experienced something or saw something. You know, it just adds a little bit more flavour to it. But you know, like I've said previously, and I stand by what I say. Most of what I'm talking about tonight, I've not touched on Old Linny's scene, apart from the mints and or out that Pete's seen or Jeremy. We've talked about Jeremy's heat signature, but most of what I'm talking about today is from other people, you know. So it's difficult to say that you've just got a group of fantasists going up there, or everything that moves in the sky is a spaceship from some other planet, because that's not what's happening. We're getting reports from just everyday people who've had extraordinary experiences. So yeah, Astro Dog. Let's just have a look at this. I've just got this, and I just want to do this little story for you guys. It'll not take us 2 minutes. And I said, oh, Al Durham's there, and Paul, do you think the submarine training area? I'll get to that in a minute, Al. So a few months ago, quite randomly, I met a lady called Sue and her husband in the car park at Danes Dyke. One nice summer afternoon, I'd gone with Bobby to take him for a walk, and I'm not sure if Michael weren't with us, who'd had the cryptid sighting, and we were just he was, and we were going over his sighting. Chris Turner were there as well, and Lee. That's it. And she'd been watching Channel, which is great. Thank you very much, and thanks for the support. And amongst other things, she told me that she'd emailed me and once before touched on a UFO sighting. And I asked her to resend it and tell me about it. And it turns out that it was in Mill Lane in Warmsworth, which interested me because when I got married, we moved to a place called Edlington. We lived in Mexborough, then we moved to Edlington. And probably a mile from Edlington is Mill Lane in Warmsworth. And this quarry, I'd been in quarry a few times. It's only a little quarry. So she lived in Mill Lane, Warmsworth. She says, I've watched your channel for a few months, fascinated. I like your down-to-earth passion for the subject. I could go on and on and on, or I'd be lying, but that's what she'd said there. And there's no more to add. Imagine what a pleasant surprise to see you in the car park. A few years ago, me and my daughter saw something very strange in the woods behind our home at Mill Lane in Warmsworth. What we saw still leaves us puzzled. Excuse me. At the time, every time we think about it or talk about it, it was so unusual. We observed 5 different sets of lights with around 8 lights attached in each set, which is interesting, isn't it? You know, the site, right, let's have a look. They move very quickly, almost like bees. I mean, what were they, drones? We can't rule that out, can we? I suppose we can. And we've got this lady's just giving us what she's seen. Almost like bees doing a large group. The whole sighting went on for around 20 minutes. Now, I don't want to crush Sue's sighting, but if you think of battery life of a drone, you know, 15 to 20 minutes. But that means there's 5 drones there with 8 lights within each drone. But it's possible, isn't it? I suppose that's possible. And that's a few years ago. So yeah, just wanted to just throw that one in. And then she's got another one. The second sighting was in 2016. Myself and my son were on the patio when a rhombus, not quite a triangle, shape hovered over us for around 2 minutes. It was peculiar and very unnerving. What Sue is describing is a 4-sided shape, quadrilateral, that has 4 equal sides and opposite sides that are parallel. Simplified, a diamond shape. Okay? Not unlike a square, its angles don't have right angles. Let's go again, right? The shape was around 15 foot wide and 15 foot wide and slightly longer in length. Around July this year, we were on the patio and we looked up into the trees, and for around 5 minutes, we saw a diamond-shaped object in just above the trees. So there's a few there around Mill Lane in Warmsworth, and I just wanted to throw that in just in case there's anybody from that Doncaster area. I know I see James Norton's in odd times. Who used to be a good, well, he's not used to be, he's a good friend of mine. I've not spoke to him for years, but I've seen him in here. But he lives close, because there might be people out there that think, hold on a minute, I know something that happened around that location. And then we don't get an hot spot, but we get these places that have gone under the radar, don't we? You know, and that's what happens in most instances. Like we said before, we're not breaking new ground up on them cliff tops at Bempton. Everything that's happening, those fishermen, them rock anglers, they've probably seen 10 times more than what we've seen. They're just not interested. It's not their thing. You get talking to them and they'll tell you about it, you know, but it's you know, it's just not bit them like it's bit us and you guys in chat. Let's put it that way. Right, let's have a look what Al Durham's saying here. Paul, do you think the submarine training area off the coast on maritime charts is a little too convenient when our main submarine bases are on the west coast? Sounds like a good cover. I've always thought that, Al. No proof though, have I, mate? You know, honestly, and none of us have. You know, how would we? But you know, I don't think I don't think the trawlers work out there or anything. You know, they keep well away from it. So it is fascinating, but I'm not going to jump down the rabbit hole and say, oh, I think that's an area where there's an alien base, because I've got no idea. But like you, Al, it's a plausible theory to sort of kick around, and you never know, somebody might come up with a bit of information that sort of adds to it at some point. Right, okay, thanks, Al. Let's have a look what we're doing here for time. Oh, that's not too bad. It's great for questions. Thank you very much, people. Thank you, Jojo. And I know that Zen did the same earlier. Really appreciate that, mate. Oh, let me just correct something here as well. I dropped the thermal camera. Not last week. Well, not last week, but a few days before the Sunday live stream. I've got it working again. You know, because I was saying, oh, I've got to get another thermal. I've got it working again, people. But, you know, thanks for support, as in, you know, I think Gemma said to me afterwards that people were thinking about trying to club together and get your thermal camera. No need. It works, but thank you. Let's have a look. And that, like Alison's just said, thank you, Joe. Very much appreciated. So let's just keep running down here. Oh, I'll just do this. I've got to do this. Richarda, thank you. Appreciated. And Alison said same. There we go. Sam Watson. Let's have a look. Zeno, Zen Escape. Might be done with questions. I don't know. That's Tony Dixon. Let's have a go at this. Raton Gap is only 2 miles east of Hornby. Another 1990. Yeah, you're spot on, Tony. And it's fascinating. 1998 produced so much UFO activity, but not just on this coast, sort of worldwide. And you know, 2009 was the same. in all across the UK. But it was September 2009 when we had the Wilsthorpe incident. But I didn't know anything about what I've called the Wilsthorpe incident until I think it was 2014, 2015. So I'd had my website, ILF UFO, intelligent light forms, not life forms, light. And I'd been collecting reports since about 2004 on that website. And then it exploded in 2009. And people, there were just loads of reports coming in and loads of newspaper articles. And in Driffield, near Riverside, near the canal, in May of 2009, there's a large telecommunications mast, and more. I got 3 reports from different people of a large red orb over a number of days, very large thing, looking like an hot air balloon of all things. Big. That's how big, should we say, near the telecommunications mast, and that were coming out in 2009. On what do they call it? It's Gypsy Road, but I can't remember street in Bridlington, Jameson Road. A guy called Alan Norrie. He went into his kitchen he was doing something again, the sink, and he noticed white lights on his lawn. Got a long garden, that 100-foot long garden. Opened his back door. He said, and on his lawn, they weren't spheres that were independent. They were just lights as big as dustbin lids, the old dustbins. And they were moving about on his lawn. Couldn't understand it. This is May 25th, 2009. He went down his garden and looked up into the sky. It's a clear sky. And he can't see anything. There's nothing there. There's no object. You know, once again, it's a bit of a... Jeremy's looking at a figure with his thermal, looking with his torch, and it's not there. There's nothing there. Something's projecting big dustbin-sized circular lights, he said, and they just slowly moved up his lawn, and then they just disappeared over into the next garden, but he couldn't understand what they were. Yeah, so more spheres. I'm just looking at some dates here. At Scarborough Evening News on June the 12th, a triangular-shaped object was seen flying along the side of Bempton Cliffs. Paul Sinclair's not saying this. I am. But other people had reported it. And somebody had been sat in the car looking up the coast and observed a small triangular-shaped UFO, black triangle, flying along the side of the cliffs. Just disappeared out at sight, I presume, as it got round corner to Speeton. At 2017, a dog walker on cliffs. This is at the height of all those sheep fatalities. And there were a lot of activity, strange activity. I think that was 2017, where these nabs come out, these sort of protrusions of rock where the sea's eroded in. She can see a little bit further as she's walking, and a triangle literally flew past, but it was lower than the cliffs, but she saw it in the gap. Interesting, small triangles. Then you've got other people seeing huge objects. It's just crazy. I don't know. Brands Burton, 25th of July, which is all close. That's inland a little bit. 7 lights in the sky. And all of this culminated, I think, the bait diggers on the beach, the guys who dig the worms up for the anglers who sort of fish off the harbour wall and do their beach casting. You've got men who professionally go out and they dig worms up and razor fish as bait and obviously sell it. The tides dictate when they're doing that. Obviously, they have to go at night. They'll have headlights on and they've still got to work. And they were down on Wilsthorpe Beach, and they'd reported a triangular-shaped object going into the sea. And has been pointed out to me by the boss of the bait diggers, it's impossible. And I'm not going to dress it up any different. He says the sea's too shallow for what they saw go into sea. So how does that work? Yeah, so Paul could bend rules a bit and push it out. Oh, it were half a mile out where it's deep and that could happen. But no, it weren't. The boss of the bait digger says if you put chest waders on, you can wade out a long distance into sea on a nice calm day if you wanted to, and you wouldn't come over the top of your chest waders. Yet this thing went down into sea. So that was seen, and then a few days later, or I don't know exact time frame, and we'd have to do Wilsthorpe incident from start to finish to get dates, and I can give you dates because this guy kept a diary, and I've wrote about it in book 2. And come on, Paul, get your thread. They were down there, and when they went down there, suddenly the military are all around them. They were told to get off the beach. The military personnel literally said, if you don't get off the beach, you're coming with us. And they said, well, we're bait digging. They wanted to know what they were doing. They says, we're digging bait. That's what we do. He says, you're not. You're going off the beach. So they went off the beach. They got moved off the beach. They stayed on the little cliff top and watched. He says, and the beach didn't light up, but lights came on, and there were people with what they assumed were metal detectors. Military personnel all over the beach at Wilsthorpe in 2009. I didn't know anything about the Wilsthorpe incident. Was it UFO related? Do I think it was UFO related? Yes, I do. And an elderly couple contacted me probably 2014, 2015, after I'd had an article put in local paper saying they were writing the first book, Truth Proof 1. And I wanted any strange and unusual stories. And I went to visit this old couple, and they told me about a UFO, a circle of UFOs that they'd seen over the sea. And they said the next day the military came, and they at Wilsthorpe. Once again, guys, you're going to have to Google Earth this if you don't know the location. But I think there's 16 flats in blocks of 4, and then there's nothing to the right of them, and there's a small holiday camp to the left about a quarter of a mile away. But other than that, these flats high tide. If you walk down bottom of their garden, you can throw a stone into the sea, and there's farmland at the back of them. And these flats were built in 1935. I think they were built for military back then in 35. And this old lady said that they've got a shared porch light for all 4 flats. Anybody can turn it on, anybody can turn it off, or a shared outside light, should we say. She said, and her husband went to bed. She'd said, well, I thought, well, I'm off now. I'll go lock up. She said, and remember, they'd lived there 30 odd years. So, and they've got binoculars on side. When I went round, they're used to seeing things. They know what an helicopter looks like. I guess that's what I'm saying. She said, and I went into my porch. And I thought, oh, that bugger's left light on next door, porch light. So she turned it off at her end, shut the door, just about to step into the living room. She said, and a voice said to her, go back and have another look. And so I turned round, shocked, and looked. She says, and when I actually looked, because if you've got your room light on and you're looking at the glare of a window, you can't always see. She said, I couldn't believe what I was looking at. She said, because there was a huge circle of blue and white boomerang-shaped objects over the sea. She shouted her husband. Her husband got up, came to look. Says he only looked for a few minutes. Says, and he was frightened. He was just frightened. And I spoke to him. He said, I put my head under the pillow and I didn't want to think about this again till morning. I said, what did you do? She says, I watched them. She said, I weren't taking my eyes off them. And she said that there's a huge circle of them. She says, and I can't remember exact times now, people. So don't say, oh, you got your time wrong if I've wrote it in book, because she did give me times. But let's say, 10 to 11, and it finished at midnight. And they were moving away in pairs. And she said the sea looked like a boiling pan of water, literally just alive, and it was lit up within this circle. She said until there were just 2 left, and then they'd gone. She said, and the next day the military came, and obviously, I do know that the military came the next day, because not my son-in-law, but my daughter's partner, incidentally, who was moderating for us, he were at the yacht club. There's a small yacht club next door. Don't mistake this by thinking it's some marina with beautiful £1 million yachts. These are catamarans in a corrugated sheet shed. But he were there sort of working on his catamaran. And the military came and they moved them all off. Apparently it were an exercise. And that's what it said. And I put a Freedom of Information request in, and the reply I got back was, and I haven't got it in front of me, so not word for word, any shots that were heard, any explosions that were heard were all simulated, and basically just passing it off as nothing. And that was that. Incidentally, Kaz Clark, the Penturk incident, she just got a very similar reply back to what I got when she put a Freedom of Information request in for what she were looking into at the Penturk. So, was it UFO related? Yeah, I think it was. And then I'm going to do some more questions. I don't think we're maybe not going to get to them. But then So that was September 15th, 2009. There must be literally 30 sightings to pack around that either side of it. There's Eileen Hobson's sighting from Barmston, just literally a mile up the coast, where she saw the circle of objects in a field at the back of the Wilsthorpe Flats, which I've written about in book 2 as well. All part of the Wilsthorpe story. And, and Eileen observed these from her bathroom window, because all her cottage did were look out onto open fields. They didn't need frosted glass or curtains even, because there were nobody to look at them when they were in the bathroom. So anyway, that were that. But then the same year, but in November, there's a lady travelling home from work down the A165 road. That's the main road that runs parallel with, as you'd run past it from Wilsthorpe. She said it's between 8:30 and 9 p.m. at night, and there's a red car in front of them that's weaving all over the road. Remember, this is not far away from September when all this activity were taking place. So we thought he's either ill and, suffering pain, or something's gone wrong, or he's under influence of alcohol or something. They don't know. So she slowed down and just let him do what he wanted. And then the car just parked skew in the road, not in middle of the road, but just sort of on angle. And suddenly her colleague, who sat in passenger seat, started screaming and hysterically. And I looked at her, then looked, and to my right, paralleling us in the field at the other side of the hedges, which would be looking onto Wilsthorpe, is a huge UFO. Said I couldn't see the top of it, but it's just above the ground, and there's a red light at one side, and there's at one end, and there's a red light at the other, and it's moving as we're moving. It's a lot bigger than the car. It's not an helicopter. It's literally skimming the ground. There's no sound. She's not talking about, and the road's width away. Let's assume somebody wants to think it's a Chinook. If it's the other side of the road and it's flying outside here, I think it'd probably blow the car over. So what I'm saying is there's no disturbance. There's no disturbance of the trees. They follow it right down to roundabout at Wilsthorpe, and they get a good view of this huge lozenge-shaped thing, but so tall. It were taller than, as tall as it were long, but they didn't really focus on the height of it. It turned and shot straight out to sea. So that's another one. And I've interviewed Carly, brilliant witness, and that's one, if my time allows, and if Carly's time allows, where we're going to kind of reenact it and drive down the road, and we'll see if we can get that in more detail. Let's have a look here. So let's have a look. See if there's just fit a few more questions in. Let's have a look. What's this? Alienate, like the ones I seen this year, upside down. All right. I didn't know you had, mate, but that'd be interesting. You know, if you want to tell us about that at some point, and no doubt you'll have talked about it on your podcast. It's too late, Andy. You ought to have put a link up for it so people could have seen. But Andy, Alienate UK, got a great podcast. You know, give him a bit of support, guys. And let's have a look. Al Durham, Jem Sinclair. Don't forget to hype the channel. That's brilliant. Yeah, after it's finished. You know all this stuff, Gemma. You know, the Shadow 33. Let's have a look. Paul, did you see my comment about the figure on the thermal and ears showing in the footage? No, I didn't, mate. So apologies. I may have done now. You were on the comments on the actual YouTube channel. And it's all difficult, though, Shadow, isn't it? Everybody's got a little bit of a different interpretation of what we're looking at. And you could be spot on, by the way. I'm not saying you're not. But it's really difficult. I think all we can be stuck on is the fact that there's a shape there that looks like it's a person. And for me, the biggest enigma, and I keep drawing people back to it, is he couldn't see it in a torch. I don't know. It's fascinating. But when you say the ears, I'm wondering if you're referring to the white bits that keep showing up, because I did notice there were white bits showing up. Let's have a look. What's Alison saying? Thank everyone for joining us tonight. All very much appreciated. Yeah, and thank you, Alison. Thanks, Lee, and thanks, Gemma. And let's have a look. Right. The figure in the thermal image. If you read frame by frame. Yep. I'll tell you what I'll do. And I'll make effort to do this, Shadow. We'll slow it right down and see if we can, and I'll blow them up a little in that DaVinci Resolve and see whether we can just see what you're on about and see what I've been on about and other people where there's white flexing bits coming through in that footage. Yeah. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, he's still having a go at this shadow, aren't you? But we'll do it. Zoom in frame by frame and the figure in the thermal footage. You can potentially see ears. Oh, if so, a werewolf. Do you know, I'm not going to say no, but I've no idea. Myself and Les, we've made Wolflands, haven't we? We've talked about these incredible cryptid creatures that people have seen, and I'm in no doubt that they've seen them. But doesn't it blow your mind when you think about the potential for something like that to be walking about? It's absolutely, it's mind-blowing and frightening at the same time. And I've spoke to Patrick Daniel today about something, and Patrick's going to come on live stream. Probably not this week, probably not next week, but maybe next week or so. And I think you're going to be really surprised by what Patrick's got to tell you. And I'm involved in this. Only difference is I've got no memory of it. I was there. And I was there with my grandson as well. And something definitely happened. But I can't even remember half at detail. But Patrick's it's bothered him ever since it happened a few years ago. So a bit of a tease there. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't, because I've not told you all, but let's wait for Patrick. Al Durham knows all about this because Al Durham's been reading reports that Patrick's been sending him, and they're pretty detailed. Let's have a look. Hi, Paul. I recently visited RAF Bampton after watching your videos. I've caught a photo of a full body grey figure in a doorway. Wow, that is interesting. And NWB, I will say that I'm assuming that you were on the cliff path and not on private land. I do that more to cover myself, you know that. So let's have a look, because we don't advocate anybody going on that land. So how do you get it to me? I'd love you to email it me. So that'd be my email address, which is my name, Paul Sinclair, 3 letters, ILF at gmail.com. And yeah, that'd be brilliant. And then we can have a little discussion about it and sort of fill in some detail. And the people in here now, there's still like 330 people here. You can get to hear about how NWB came to get this picture and what he thought at the time. Thank you. Appreciated. I see Dave Barker's in. I mean, there's some sightings. Dave Barker, we've got to cover Dave's sightings. And in more detail, let's put it this way, because he's got a good eye and a good eye for the detail. That's what I'm meaning. John Paul Body. I'm just about there with it, guys, so I'm sorry about this. The flying saucer sounds similar to looking to my sighting in East London, mid-late 70s. I spoke to you a few weeks ago, Janice. Okay, Janice, yeah, that's something else I'm going to have to revisit then, Janice, and we'll get yours back up there. Give me another kick up backside, Janice, in an email or message, please, and I'll get on to that. And maybe we'll just have a Sunday where we talk about that specific shaped object. You know, why not? But thank you. You know, anybody that thinks I've had a sighting, they've given me a sighting and I've just ignored it. A lot of time I haven't, but I am literally swamped. I've got 2 hospital visits this week, and anybody who knows about hospitals, they're going to take your day up. You know, by the time you've messed about, your day's gone. So I'm not labouring on it, by the way. I'm not feeling sorry for myself. These are for other people that we're doing it for, but these things have to be done. Let's have a look. John Paul, he was an amazing person, Paul. Yeah, right. So John's talking about Peter Dane. As soon as he said amazing person, I knew just who you're talking to. All it had time for me when I'd say hello when I was passing through the dike. Definitely at one with nature. You're spot on, mate. Say every time, and we still haven't done it, John. And I've got all the footage that I took when me and you spent some time together. And this fella here, it's his little thumbnail with beard. He's got an amazing account, and I'll say a lifetime of experiences, but a lot of years of experiences that are up there with anybody's strange experiences. So it deserves more than just a 5-minute chat, that one, John. We need to devote some time to that, mate. Paranormal Mind. Let's have a look here. Hello, Paul. I have found heaps of similar reports of the black entity phasing in and out of view. Reports here in New Zealand. This is Mark. Good to see. Yeah, I've got it, Mark. Are very bizarre. Thanks, Mark. that's brilliant. And please, Mark were on last week telling us some of his experiences. And Mark's going to start a YouTube channel. And I think anybody who listened to him talking, unless, well, you might not agree, but I think most people would agree that he speaks well. He really goes into the detail. So, yeah, absolutely brilliant. Just before I go, thank you, Andy, for sending me that. It's brilliant, isn't it? Yeah. What am I doing here? Get it up there. That's it. So that came through post and didn't have to do that, and really appreciated. So I think we're about there, guys. Oh, we got Gren Steele. Let's just do that. Have you ever set up tech and cameras to try and catch? Oh, absolutely, mate. Yeah. There's audio recorders in Danesdyke now. There's no trail cams in. I took 2 audio recorders out and 2 trail cams the other week, and they produce zilch. All 4 items, nothing on them. But there's audio recorders in again, and there'll be some more trail cams going in at some point this week, if my time allows. I'm not going to get him in the next few days, but weather's atrocious anyway, isn't it? So we shall see. Right then, guys. It's 9 o'clock, and no doubt I'm looking at this. There's loads more questions. I think there is anyway, so we could go on and on, but I'm going to have to close it down. I'm going to grab a cup of tea, do nothing. All I can say to you guys is I hope you have a great week. If you've got any reports you want to share with me, or even if it's just a few one-liners that you want to send me via social media or through email that you want me to talk about on a Sunday live stream, no problem. Let's do it. And enjoy your week, and I'm going to catch. And from myself, Alison, Gemma, and Lee, thank you very much. Thanks for all your support, guys, tonight. And I'm going to catch you next Sunday, all being well. Take care. Good night.
Oh, wow.
Saw it twice, so I was like, oh my god.
That was just weird.
I always used to see a light coming up,
Yeah.
like a headlight, but there was nobody there.
Oh, it's just disappeared.